Freddy Peralta could be on the move this offseason. Is Boston a realistic fit?
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome to yet another day of the MLB offseason as we sit and we wait and see what our favorite teams are going to do this offseason. What direction are they going to go in? What types of moves are they going to make? I am your host, Gabby Maljanian of Locked On Red Sox, and this is a special crossover episode. I'm with Chuck Freimund of Locked On Brewers. We're going to talk all things potential trades here because, as I've talked about on my show before, there is a very intriguing starting pitcher who's rumored to maybe be on the move for the Brewers. So we're going to be discussing all of that on today's show, as well as what both of these teams really need to do this offseason. Chuck, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Gabby, I got to tell you, when I was a kid, we used to play a game in our neighborhood because there was a short home run fence. We'd call it Fenway.
Really?
It was up against the school. There was a short home run fence. Yeah, this is back, when I was 12, 13 years old. We played Fenway, it was called. Hey, do you want to go play Fenway today? So we'd go down to the school and play this baseball game called Fenway.
No way. That is so funny.
In Wisconsin here, in Milwaukee. Yep. Oh, yeah.
I know. Have you ever been to Fenway?
Never been to Boston. I thought I was going to be there in 2018. If the Brewers would have beat the Dodgers in the NLCS, would have come out there for the World Series. And it never happened. I have relatives who live in the Boston area, but I've never been to Boston. You know that song, Please Come to Boston?
Yeah.
I've never been to Boston.
I recommend it. It's
I've heard it.
City.
Yeah.
And you definitely have to go to Fenway Park if you do make your way there, because it's definitely a historic ballpark.
Oh, of course. Without questions. But I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. I don't like that they put seats beyond Fenway. I loved it when the ball would just like disappear into the night at Fenway over the left field fence. But,
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I'm old school though, so.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's definitely different, but it's a great experience still, nonetheless, to step foot in that ballpark and think about all the history there and all the players who have really played there. It's super cool every time I go and just witnessing and experiencing and thinking about that and just how many players have come through that ballpark.
Oh God! Again, when I was a kid, there was a kid in my neighborhood who was a big Red Sox fan. And he'd impersonate the Jim Rice. No, this is going way back. Jim Rice. He loved Jim Rice. And I don't know why it took so long for Jim Rice to get in the Hall of Fame. But growing up when I was a really little kid, he was a star.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean he's a Red Sox legend.
Yeah.
That's and there's so many people like that you can pinpoint and think about, like, even like Ted Williams and just players like that played at Fenway. It's just so cool to think about that.
Carl Yastrzemski.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Carl Yastrzemski. He was old back then, but then I looked and I was like, man, he was only like in his 30s and he looked like he was like 70, but he was one of the all-time legends in Boston as well. So, but it's great getting on with you and talking about potentially what one of our guys moving to your team if we could hook up on a trade here.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about because it is the off season now. So it's all speculation at this point, right? Until moves start actually being made. So I'm really excited to dive into a lot of different things with you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So this is a very interesting time of year for baseball because so much gets floated around, so many players being associated with potential trades, so many teams that we know have holes that they need to fill. But the question is, who are they going to fill those holes with? And Freddy Peralta is a really intriguing name that I keep seeing come across as a player who could potentially be moved this offseason. And I want to know if you're buying into that. Do you feel like they definitely could be moving him this winter?
Well, first of all, I want to keep him because I want to run it back. The Brewers won 97 games with him as the ace pitcher. So the Brewers have this thing about selling off pitchers. Once they get into a contract year, he's going to make about $8 million, and the Brewers picked up his salary. And I'm all for keeping Freddy Peralta at the top of the rotation. Without him, the Brewers don't have a legit number one guy, and he won 17 games. He was great this past year. With that said, when I saw the report by John Morosi earlier in the week, I was like, going to the Boston Red Sox. Well, I think that's more or less a great fit for him, because you guys are also looking for a pitcher next to Garrett Crochet, another spectacular pitcher. And Peralta would go there and be the number 2 guy. Now, the question is, who would be coming back to Milwaukee? I'll say this, Gabby. At the baseball winter meetings, the Brewers general manager, Matt Arnold, he went out and said, well, we're not really looking to trade him. We look forward to Freddie being on our team next season. Of course he's going to say that, because if he comes out, yeah, I'm fielding trade rumors and all this is true, and then that lessens the price. He's going to say right now, what he tells us and what he tells other general managers are 2 different things. But it sounds like the reports are that he could be staying, but then I see Morosi's report. Who knows what's really going to happen? But it sounds like, if anything, he'd be a great fit in Boston.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is the time of year where you wonder what direction your team is actually going to go in. And I feel like that's a little bit clearer for some teams than it is for others. And the Red Sox are in a spot right now where, they made the playoffs with a young team in 2025. Lots of guys getting first-time exposure to the postseason, which is huge. So you have to feel like they're going to want to continue to build on that and create a team that can hopefully make an even deeper run than what we saw. And I definitely thought the Brewers had a good shot of going to the World Series in 2025. And so then you look back on the season they had, and you have to feel like it would be hard for them to move a guy like Peralta and basically be saying, we won 97 games. We went pretty deep in the postseason, but we're moving our ace. Like, what kind of message would that send to Brewers fans about the direction of the team?
Yeah, they've done it before. They moved their closer, Devin Williams, off a team that won the game at first. They moved him to New York, and it worked out great, because, as you know, Devin Williams struggled, and the Brewers got back Caleb Durbin. 2 years ago, traded off to a Burns to another one of your rivals, the Baltimore Orioles, and he's come up with
happy about that.
What's that?
Was not happy about that.
Yeah, but he was there for 1 year, and then he was gone, and now he's got Tommy John he's recovering from Tommy John surgery. But the Brewers had a great year. A lot of things went right for them this year, but the Brewers are in a situation, Gabby, where, since they are a small market, they have to keep all options open. They can't afford to go out and pay an Alex Bregman, $30-40 million a year. They can't afford to go out and pay guys like that. They're really looking, because that's the way the baseball structure is, the financial structure. They got to find guys like a Jose Quintana, who nobody else wants, and the Brewers bring him in. The Brewers have been able to make that work. Now, how long can they keep on doing it? Who knows? They got a strong farm system, and there's no way the Brewers don't re-sign pitching, as they've traded off Hader and, as I mentioned, Burns and those guys. So if they're going to trade anybody, right now would be the time to trade Peralta, unless they get into the season and they realize, well, they're not going to be in the pennant race, and then they make a trade during the season, like in July. But like I said, I want to keep Peralta, but if I'm going to trade Peralta, I want some guys back. There's a couple of guys on your roster who I'd like back if we're going to trade Peralta.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes intriguing too, is I feel like people don't always realize what actually goes into these types of front office decisions. And it's a lot easier said than done for somebody to say, oh, we should just trade for this player. But the opportunity has to be there. The other team has to like what you have to offer in order to make a trade actually happen. And there's always fans that are in an uproar if a specific trade doesn't happen. But it's a lot more complex than people feel like, because, these two teams could be trying to work out a trade, but then if the return isn't appealing enough, then it might just not happen. But the Red Sox do definitely have some tradable pieces, and they are going to have to trade some guys this offseason, is the reality at the end of the day. And coming up, we're going to be discussing what potentially that could look like, a trade between these two teams that hopefully will both be deep in the playoff picture again next year. Are you a fan of sports betting? My husband definitely is because he literally is on FanDuel every single day, placing bets. Literally was just doing it this morning, looking at NBA bets, NFL bets, NHL bets, you name it. He's all over the map with FanDuel. And the best part about FanDuel is you can bet on a lot of different sports and make a lot of money in the process. I've seen him, when he cashes out, make a good amount of money, and that can be you too. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I am here with Chuck Freimund of Locked On Brewers. I'm Gabby Maljanian from Locked On Red Sox here on this special crossover edition from the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And while we think about the offseason and potential trades that could happen, I've talked pretty extensively on my show about where the Red Sox are at right now. They have an overflow in the outfield. They possibly could be looking to upgrade first base this offseason because of the unknowns of what's going on with their first baseman, Tristan Casas. And they clearly need a #2 starting pitcher, which is where Freddy Peralta could be a great fit. Because if you have a 1-2 punch of Crochet and Peralta, that's really solid. And the Red Sox didn't really have that solidified #2 that no doubt would fill that role. So that we know is going to be something they're looking at. So I would be surprised if the Red Sox don't give the Brewers a call to check on his availability. But my question is, what are, some moves this offseason that you would like to see the Brewers do, like holes on your roster that they need to fill this offseason that the Red Sox could maybe help with?
Well, they need a power hitting third baseman. You guys got one. In fact, Bregman, what's the status with him?
Yeah, well, he's a free agent technically now.
Okay.
They're definitely going to try to bring him back, but he's up for grabs.
Yeah, can't afford him unless the price comes way down on something like that. We're shopping at a different aisle here in Milwaukee than you guys are. But they need a power hitting third baseman. I'm thinking Durbin's going to move to second base and Duran over to short. I've been telling my listeners out there, could use maybe another outfielder. I think Christian Yelich should be a full-time DH on this team. You got a couple of intriguing ones there, Gabby, with Duran and Abreu. Well, especially I like Abreu in the outfield. He's really good defensively, lefty, got a good arm. We already got Sal Frelick at right, but we could shuffle things around a little bit. But if I'm thinking of a move with the Red Sox, I think one of those two guys got to be included.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have to move one of those outfielders because they just have an overflow of outfielders right now. Roman Anthony was hurt at the end of the season in 2025. So naturally, that meant all of those guys were playing. But the reality is Roman's healthy now. He's going to slot back into that outfield. So there's going to be an odd man out in the situation. And it's not going to be Cedar Rafaela, arguably the best defensive center fielder in the sport. They definitely want to keep him around. They extended him. He's not going to be moved. Roman Anthony, obviously not going to be moved either. Signed him to a nice extension as well. Likely the face of the franchise for years to come. So that does leave Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu. And there's definitely some upsides to both. I mean, Wilyer Abreu just won his second consecutive Gold Glove in right field. So if you're looking for somebody who has a lot of defensive upside, he'll definitely give you that. And also with Abreu, when healthy, he was one of the Red Sox most consistent bats as well. So he's going to give you a lot offensively too. He's dealt with some injuries over the last couple of seasons, though, I will say. So that's one of the biggest things with him to keep an eye on. Jarren Duran's a really versatile player. I mean, he's somebody who can provide a lot of speed on a roster that not every team really has. And the Red Sox, notably, were good at manufacturing runs in 2025 because they had speed on their roster. And a lot of that was thanks to Jarren Duran. So he's somebody who could provide that. He can cover a lot of ground in the outfield as well, which makes his defense also durable for another team as well if you guys were to make that move. His offense took a decline from 2024 to 2025. So that's something that I would be a little bit wary of. However, a change of scenery, the Red Sox believe could be good for him at this point in his career. And the nice thing is, they both are still very much in their prime years now. They're both under team control for a few more seasons. So that's another thing that definitely could appeal to the Brewers about either one of those guys. I have no doubt that one of them is going to be moved this offseason. So if you feel like they are interested in an outfielder, one of those two players could definitely be the centerpiece of that package.
Yeah, I think this is going to take, I think the Brewers are looking for a little bit more than they got in the Burns deal and even more in the Devin Williams deal. It could be 3 players. It could be Duran, maybe a prospect, and maybe throw in some pitcher in there. I think the prospect is definitely, Brewers are always looking for a controllable talent. Again, because of the financial situation they're in, they're not looking for an expiring contract. They got Cortez from the Yankees last year, and they ended up shipping him off to San Diego. But they're looking for guys that they can get who are going to be around for a little while and aren't making a heck of a lot of money. So that's what the situation. So, but I think from what I understand, he's got to be bowled over. General Manager Matt Arnold, he's got to be bowled over to trade Peralta. Plus, you're getting him for $8 million a year. You're getting a number 2 pitcher for $8 million next year. Now, the year after that, I mean, you could hit somewhere north of $200 million on a free agent contract, but you worry about that one later, I guess, if you're the Red Sox. But you got it for $8 million next year, but you're going to have to fork over maybe 3 players.
Yeah, and that's the thing that people need to keep in mind here is it's going to take a bit of a haul, just like they gave up for Crochet. I mean, they gave up some really, really good prospect talent for him, but you do that trade every day of the week because of what Crochet gave you in 2025 and the fact that they were able to extend him, because that's another big thing with all of this that may hold the Red Sox back is, do we want to give up what it would take to get a guy like Peralta here, risking him being a free agent after this year and then essentially him maybe walking for nothing? It would almost have to be a situation where they would have to know for sure, okay, we can extend this guy before he hits free agency also. Otherwise, they may not want to make that kind of move because they might feel like it's not necessarily worth the price they would have to pay if they would only get him for a year.
Yeah, I think with the Red Sox there, you're talking about, catching the Toronto Blue Jays right now, and we'll see if they keep Bichette. And of course, the Yankees are always a factor there, and you got
unfortunately,
your rivals, So, but I feel like if you had a 1-2 punch there, and I thought the Red Sox, I thought you guys had a really good year this past year. I feel like every day you guys are winning, kind of like the Milwaukee Brewers and Crochet. I feel like in fact, when we were talking about FanDuel a little while ago, I bet on the Red Sox on a Sunday afternoon against the Dodgers. Do you remember this game? They were down to the Dodgers, and a buddy of mine said, we got to go on the Dodgers today. And he goes, the Dodgers are going to bounce back or beat the Red Sox again. I said, no, I'm not betting against the Red Sox. They win every day. And of course, the Red Sox won going away. So I never bet against the Red Sox because I feel like
I like that. I didn't think they would win that series against the Dodgers either, but they did.
Yeah. I remember watching that game half asleep on my couch and thinking, man, thank God I did not bet on the Dodgers that day. But yeah, I feel like you guys are going to be right in the mix. It's a big offseason for both your team and our team this year. And it is. And I feel like, any trade, if the Brewers do trade Peralta to the Red Sox, certainly, to have Crochet and Peralta 1-2, when you're stacking up against the Blue Jays and the Yankees, man, you're looking, that's a good 1-2 to have, at least for going into the next year. But, again, you're going to probably have to take a hit by giving up somebody, one of your valuable young outfielders.
Yeah. And that's the big thing is, are they going to be willing to do that? And there is no doubt about the fact that an outfielder is going to be moved. I think it just more goes along with what else is going to have to be moved with that player, because the Red Sox definitely have some appealing prospects in their system as well too. But it all depends also on, again, where the Brewers are at. Are they really interested in acquiring prospects right now? Or are they in a situation where they still feel like they can win now, so they don't feel like that would be something that's as beneficial?
Oh, always willing to take on prospects. Always, again, guys who aren't making a lot of money, we're always willing to take those kind of guys out and see what we can make of them. So, I mean, with the Red Sox, but they probably would have to, maybe reluctantly, but are they willing to deal prospects?
Yeah, they definitely would. I mean, they do have a top prospect called the Password. That's his nickname. Jhostynxon Garcia. He's an outfield prospect. And he's definitely somebody who I think the Red Sox will move this offseason. They also are willing to move pitching prospects, which is always good for any team to have, is pitching talent, young pitching talent. They do have two pitchers in particular, in Peyton Tolley and Connolly Early, both of which made their major league debut in 2025. So it's a really small sample size so far with both, but I'm thinking that there's a likely chance that one of them will be packaged into a trade this offseason as well. And there's really enticing aspects to both of them. Connolly Early made a postseason start because Lucas Giolito was hurt. So he was forced into experiencing that pressure of playing in the postseason after he had only made 4 starts for the Red Sox. So talk about that as an experience. But they're both enticing young players who have only made a handful of starts for this Boston Red Sox team. Tolley also pitched a little bit out of the pen. So those are definitely two very intriguing names that I'm looking at as likely being on the trading block in one of these moves.
Well, Gabby, you had me at the Password, man. I'm intrigued by that guy already.
He's
on strictly nickname alone.
He's super fun. Yeah, he's super fun. Tearing it up in AAA. Got called up to the majors due to injury, but then was sent back down when people got healthy and came back. But he's definitely somebody who has a ton of upside and a ton of raw power, which is something that could be enticing to a team like the Brewers if they do want that up and coming young outfield talent.
Yeah. And of course, always looking for those kind of guys. We've had a few of those come through. One guy is hurt, Garrett Mitchell, in center field. So I think we're looking for some outfield. I think we're a little uncertain at a position out in maybe in left field because Garrett Mitchell, I don't know if he's coming back. I can't depend on a guy who's come back from repeated injuries. And like I said, Yelich, I think best suits as a full-time DH going forward. So I just want to get the players, good players, and good players. We'll figure out where they play later on. That's my opinion in the outfield. We'll figure that out later on. We'll get around to that.
Exactly. It's better to have more good players than not enough good players. And then you have to figure out where people are playing. It's a good problem to have, which is what I have said on the show too about the Red Sox outfield situation, is having an overflow of outfielders isn't a bad thing because you can use that to your advantage instead of having not enough people to play in the outfield. Oh,
it always seems to work out because it's funny because you go to camp and you think, God, I got all these guys. I got all these starting pitchers. It always seems to work out. I don't know how it does, but it always seems the pieces always fall into place no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And as we think about the offseason and where these teams are at, coming up, we're going to be discussing some, potential predictions for next season for both of these teams. I did want to remind you all quickly to keep subscribing to both of these shows on any podcast platform, as well as any other Locked On MLB show, or just the Locked On MLB show in general with Sully, who is absolutely hilarious and breaks down everything going on across Major League Baseball. You can tune into that show as well on any podcast platform. We also would like to thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. It is because of you, the people listening right now, that we were able to make that possible. All of us here at the network are truly so appreciative of that. And I know my loyal listeners out there, I really appreciate all of you riding with me through the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Hopefully we get more highs in 2026 with the Boston Red Sox than we do lows, but it's just such a fun community to be a part of. And we really can't thank you all enough for that. So continue to like, subscribe, share, and be there for us through the journey, because Locked On is here for you every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network. Speaking of ups and downs, I mean, the Red Sox definitely had their fair share of downs in 2025 with injuries in particular, but just feeling like they weren't playing up to their potential early on in the season. And then all of a sudden something clicked around June and they just started playing more like the Boston Red Sox that people thought going into the season that they were going to play like. But it always felt like they were 1 or 2 pieces away from truly being a World Series contender. And I am confident in the fact that if the Red Sox go out and get a #2 starting pitcher and a power bat to add to the middle of their lineup, that's a team that can win their division and definitely make a World Series run. I don't think they're that far off. I think they really just need 2 big pieces in order to make that happen. And the question is, will they? And that's the biggest test here, because the Red Sox had an underwhelming trade deadline compared to what we thought they were going to have. They were in contention at the trade deadline, only really made a couple of moves, didn't replace the bat of Rafael Devers at the trade deadline, which people thought they were going to do. That didn't happen. Definitely needs to happen this offseason. So the Red Sox are kind of in an interesting spot right now, but they certainly, if they get those two players, if they get a number 2 starting pitcher and they get a true power bat to add to the middle of the lineup, because they were lacking a little bit in home runs last year, I would feel confident in saying they can win 95 plus games and win their division. They are so close right now, and now they have the postseason experience. They just had a couple holes that they need to fill.
It's just tough to win that many games because it's such a tough division.
Yeah,
those teams you're knocking your head against, the Red Sox or the Yankees and Blue Jays, and we'll see if, what the Blue Jays are going to keeping and what kind of moves they make in the offseason. Of course, the Yankees, you just never know what they're going to do.
Nope.
The Brewers, I feel, too, are going to run it back. I feel I can see, I don't know, 97 wins. So many things went right for these guys this past year. And I said that the previous years. I don't know how they can keep up at that pace, because they overproduce. You look at the Brewers and you say, God, they don't have any superstars. How are they winning these games? But somehow they do. Now, the problem is postseason success. As you saw, we had problems against the Dodgers, got swept in a 4-game series by that team. But regular season, as of right now, to me, they're still the favorites. The Cubs are the team that's always trying to chase us down, and the Cardinals and the Reds haven't done it yet. We still own the NL Central. But yeah, it's not as tough as the American. The Brewers used to be in the American League East back in the day when we were in the American League. You guys are one of our rivals.
I know.
Jim Rice and Dewey Evans come to town and guys like that. Oh, absolutely. Louis Tiant. The first, it's fact. It's funny. The first game I ever went to, I was really, really small, and it was 1975. And a pitcher for the Red Sox, Rick Wise, took a no-hitter into the 9th inning with 2 outs, and it was broken up by George Scott, who later played for the Red Sox. But he took a no-hitter with 2 outs in the 9th inning against the Brewers. And I haven't, and since then, I've seen thousands of games since, haven't seen anything close to that when that Red Sox pitcher came to town in 1975 and nearly tossed the no-hitter.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah, first game I ever went to.
I've never watched a game in person that's come that close to a no-hitter.
But I'm a little kid. I don't know what's going on, and you don't know the kids pitch. When you're small, you don't know. And then since then, not even come close. Not even seen a no-hitter going into the 9th inning. Yep, my very first game, this Red Sox pitcher, Rick Wise, first game of a doubleheader, took a no-hitter into the 9th inning. Almost.
That's so cool.
Yep.
That's quite a memory to have.
Well, I mean, my memory doesn't go back that far, but it goes back to that game. I remember I was really, really small. And it was against the Red Sox, who I remember went to the World Series that year and lost to the Reds.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
really bad back then.
I know. It is crazy to think back on that roster and the fact that they couldn't get it done. But that was during the very, very dark days of Red Sox baseball. But
75?
Back when they were just not winning anything.
75. They had a pretty good team. They had 75. That's the year that Fisk went off the foul pole.
Yeah.
I remember watching that game too.
And I think that was a year that people really thought that they were going to win the World Series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Don Zimmer was their manager. No, he wasn't the manager of that team, but Zimmer later on the manager. But God, the Brewers Red Sox rivalry. They'd come to town, and you see the Red Sox have all these great players on there, and it was fun. Long before you were born, Gabby, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. But yeah, it's definitely. You bring up a good point. The AL East is a competitive division, and the Blue Jays were just in the World Series. The Yankees also made a deeper playoff run than we did, given the fact that they eliminated us in the postseason. Still not happy about that, but so that's a wake-up call. That's hey, we have 2 really legitimate teams in this division, and if we want to compete with them, we need to make the moves this offseason that are necessary to do that. And with the Brewers, I definitely agree with you. I think they'll run it back. They'll, probably make another deep run maybe, but I was shocked that they couldn't even pull out a game against the Dodgers. It just
Yeah.
seemed like everything kind of just fell apart for them in that series.
Stunned, disappointed, any adjective you want to call at it, Gabby. Walking out of Dodger Stadium, it'll be like 4 weeks ago this Friday night, hanging my head thinking, man, 97 games, nothing to show for it, 97 wins. So
I know.
That's baseball.
I was pulling for them. I wanted a Mariners Brewers World Series. I think that would have been a really cool story.
Oh,
Two
sure.
teams that have never won the World Series fighting
Sure.
against each other would have been cool.
And Milwaukee's franchise started in Seattle in 1969. They were there for 1 year as the Seattle Pilots, and then the Brewers bought them out of bankruptcy, and they moved to Milwaukee. So that would have been another intriguing storyline. But like I said, I thought 2018 our two franchises were going to meet in the World Series, and who knows? They could have done it this year too. You never know.
2018 was a fun season for the Red Sox. That when you say winning every night, they truly did win every night that year.
Oh God, yeah.
Not really many losses of memory that year.
Oh, no, not at all. Like I said, I thought we were going to Fenway to play, but just couldn't finish off the Dodgers that year once again.
I know. Yeah, that Dodgers team is just so good. They know how to perform in the postseason. They have the players who just perform. So, I mean, our team's going to catch them in 2026. We can hope, but hopefully the Brewers can, figure it out, these postseason woes, because it seems like they have so much potential every year, and then they just can't put things together in the postseason. So that's what I'm going to be looking for from them in 2026 is can they finally put all those pieces together in the playoffs? Yeah,
the Dodgers are the benchmark for both of our franchises. We got to get by both. I mean, obviously a different league for you, but eventually if you got to the World Series, it's probably the Dodgers, right?
Got to deal with them at some point, probably.
Yeah, you guys did in 2018. You had to deal with them. So that's the benchmark for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Gold. Do what you can to beat the Dodgers, because then you've really won with the great roster construction over there. So we'll have to see what happens this offseason, but really appreciate you doing this with me. Everybody be sure to continue to tune into both Locked On Brewers and Locked On Red Sox on any podcast platform Monday through Friday. Locked On is the #1 sports podcast network. We'll be here with you all throughout the offseason and into spring training, which will be here before you know it. Believe it or not, with the holidays coming up, it's going to just fly by. And then we'll be discussing what our rosters look like, hopefully new and improved, come February. So we'll have to see how that all goes. But appreciate you all tuning in. As I always say at the end of every show, go Red Sox. And I'll catch you next time.